In the year 800 AD, while Charlemagne was struggling to hold Europe together, one city in Illinois had 20,000 people. That city was right here, where the highway is, where the suburbs are. You drive past it on Interstate 55, and most people have no idea it ever existed. Cahokia, a city bigger than London at the time, a city at the center of a trade network that stretched from the Rocky Mountains to the Gulf of Mexico, and almost nobody learns about it. We follow the one material that connected this entire continent, a metal that traveled over 1,000 miles without wheels, without roads, without writing, is the story of the ancient copper trade that connected America.
In the year 800 AD, while Europe was struggling through its darkest centuries, something extraordinary was happening here, in North America. Not in the jungle, not in a desert, right here, in the flatlands of Illinois, on the shores of the Great Lakes, along the banks of the Mississippi River. A civilization was alive, trading, building, connecting an entire continent through a single material, copper. This is that story. Let us begin where the copper begins. Lake Superior, the largest freshwater lake on Earth by surface area. Cold, ancient, and hiding something that no other place on the planet could offer. Pure native copper, not locked inside rock, not requiring a furnace or a smelter, simply lying in the shallows and along the shoreline, raw metal ready to be lifted with bare hands. For over 6,000 years before 800 AD, the ancestors of the Anishinaabe people had known this. They had been working this copper, cold hammering it, shaping it, annealing it longer than the Roman Empire existed, longer than the Egyptian pyramids had been standing when Rome was founded. 6,000 years of copper knowledge, passed from generation to generation, carried in the hands. Now imagine you're a copper trader. It is 800 AD. You load your birch bark canoe on the shores of Lake Superior at dawn. The water is cold and still. The mist has not lifted yet. In your canoe, raw copper nuggets, finished copper objects, breastplates hammered to a mirror shine, ear spools, ceremonial axes, objects that have taken weeks to make. Your journey south will take weeks more. Down the Fox River, a portage across land, down the Wisconsin River to the Mississippi, then south, always south, toward the greatest city on the continent. You are not traveling alone. This route has been traveled for centuries. The river knows your canoe. The city you are heading toward is called Cahokia. It sits on the fertile floodplain of the Mississippi River, just east of where the city of St. Louis stands today. By the year 1000 AD, it will hold 20,000 people, making it larger than London at the same time. In 800 AD, it is already enormous, already powerful, already the center of a trade network that stretches from the Rocky Mountains to the Gulf of Mexico, from the Great Lakes to the Florida coast. Monk's Mound, the great earthen pyramid at Cahokia's heart, rises 100 feet above the plain, 14 acres at its base, built entirely by human hands, one basket of earth at a time. It took millions of basket loads to build. It took generations. From its summit, the paramount chief of Cahokia could see his entire city spread below him. And from every corner of that city, every farmer, every craftsman, every trader arriving by river could see the mound. That was the point. The copper you carried arrived here not as raw material, it arrived as power. In Cahokia, copper was not used to make weapons or tools. It was worn, displayed, given as gifts between chiefs in ceremonies that sealed alliances and bound communities together across hundreds of miles. To wear copper in Cahokia was to announce, I have relationships. I have allies. I have access to the most precious material in the known world. The paramount chief wore a copper breastplate on his chest that weighed more than a child. His headdress carried copper ornaments that caught the afternoon sun. When he stood on the summit of Monk's Mound before 20,000 people, the copper announced his power before he spoke a single word. But Cahokia was not just receiving copper, it was sending things out. Corn. Surplus corn from the rich Mississippi floodplain went north, east and south, feeding communities that could not grow enough themselves. Finished copper objects left Cahokia and traveled to communities hundreds of miles away, presented as diplomatic gifts that created obligations, alliances, relationships. Ceramics, salt, dried fish, feathers. Everything moved. Everything carried meaning. This was not a market economy. There were no coins, no merchants, no price lists. This was a gift economy, an economy of obligation. When a chief gave you copper, you owed something back. That debt created a relationship. That relationship created the network. The network stretched further than you might imagine. In Ohio, the Hopewell culture had been operating the longest continuous trade routes in North American history since 100 BC, over 900 years before 800 AD. Their burial mounds contained copper from Lake Superior alongside obsidian from Yellowstone, shark teeth from the Gulf of Mexico, and grizzly bear claws from the Rocky Mountains. The Newark Earthenworks in Ohio, a complex of geometric earthen walls so vast and precisely aligned that archaeologists still debate their full purpose, was a major hub of this network. Today, a golf course sits inside part of it, but in its time, this was one of the most important ceremonial sites on the continent. And further south, in what is now Louisiana, the Coles Creek culture built their own platform mounds and participated in the same exchange system. From them flowed alligator hides, exotic feathers, and dried fish. Into them flowed copper from the north and ceramics from the Mississippi corridor. And at the very bottom of the network, on the Gulf Coast, lived communities whose contribution was marine shells. The lightning whelk, cut and polished into drinking cups for sacred ceremonies, cut into gorgets worn at the throat, ground into beads worn by the thousands. These shells traveled from the warm Gulf waters all the way to the cold shores of Lake Superior, over 1,000 miles, carried one exchange at a time. In 1967, archaeologist Melvin Fowler excavated a small, seemingly unremarkable mound at Cahokia, Mound 72. What he found changed everything. Beneath the soil lay a single man, buried on a bed of over 20,000 shell beads. The beads had been arranged in the precise shape of a bird, a falcon, with wings spread wide. The man lay at the center, at the falcon's heart. Around him, copper objects, rolled sheets of mica, arrow points in bundles, chunks of a game called chunky. 20,000 Gulf Coast shells, carried over 1,000 miles to become the bed, the cosmic nest of one man whose name we will never know. Whoever he was, his burial tells us one thing clearly. He was at the absolute center of the continental copper network. He was someone for whom an entire continent contributed to his final resting place. No empire lasts forever. By 1200 AD, Cahokia's population was declining. By 1350 AD, the great city was empty. The people scattered northward, southward, eastward, carrying their knowledge, their ceremonies, their pottery traditions into new communities. The causes are still debated. Climate change, political instability, environmental degradation from centuries of agriculture and construction. Perhaps all of these together. The Hopewell trade network had faded even earlier. The great earthenwork ceremonies declined. The continental exchange system fragmented. But the descendants did not vanish. The Osage Nation, the Quapaw Nation, the Chickasaw Nation, the people of the greater Mississippian world are still here, in living communities with living traditions connected to everything you have seen in this video. Today, Monk's Mound still stands, 100 feet tall, 14 acres at its base. You can walk to the top. You can stand where the paramount chief stood and look out over the same Mississippi floodplain. The copper is still on the shores of Lake Superior. The isotopes in ancient burial goods still trace back to this exact shoreline. The Newark earthenworks are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized at last for what they always were, one of the great architectural achievements of the ancient world. This continent was not empty before European contact. It wasn't waiting to be discovered. It was full. of cities, of trade routes, of ceremony, of relationships that stretched from cold northern lakes to warm tropical coasts. The copper trade connected a continent for over 1,000 years, and almost nobody was taught this in school. Now you know.